The reopening of schools, it's been very complicated by the so-called science of social distancing in the classroom. So that 6-foot separation, it wasn't rooted in any science, yet it persisted for the past year. So now the CDC you saw is lowering the threshold to 3 feet. So my question is, are we supposed to believe that that's actually backed by science? Now, I remember a certain host warning you about the shell game. What was it, about a year ago? Although intuitively, I think it probably seemed like social distancing would be necessary, there was no real scientific basis for believing that, since it'd never been studied. And as one infectious disease doc told me last week, trying to stop this virus with social distancing is like trying to drive a nail through Jell-O. Viruses spread, that's what they do. Joining us now, Dr. Scott Atlas, former special advisor to the president, senior fellow at the Hoover Institution. Dr. Atlas, this shift from 6 to 3 feet is such a shameless move by the CDC. We knew it back in May of last year. I was just trashed relentlessly online for saying that. When is it going to go down to, like, 24 inches?
Well, yeah, thanks, Laura. I mean, it shows several things. One, of course, this rule itself of 6 feet has been extraordinarily harmful to schools, of course, but also to small businesses, to restaurants, to gyms, to family gatherings themselves. The second part is what really exposes how arbitrary things are. These people who claim to be all about the science, listen to the science, it's the science. It's not the science. It wasn't the science. It was a completely arbitrary rule. And one of the ways you can tell, besides knowing that the research that it was based on was on these droplet studies and not contagious infections. They had nothing to do with this. There was no science. But the WHO, the World Health Organization, from day one said 3 feet. And so did other countries like Singapore, China, Austria, Finland, several countries, Sweden. And so what happened to this? Somehow someone, and believe me, what I saw in the task force, it doesn't surprise me, arbitrarily decided, oh, maybe it should be 6 feet. And this is just a real shame because it exposes the pseudoscience that's been used. They said they had science. They didn't have science.
No,
it's arbitrary and so destructive. And somebody should ask them, when are you going to say you were wrong?
No, there's never a mea culpa. They take a wrecking ball to our school system, to our kids, and then they move on to the next lockdown. Like, by the way, CDC Director of today, Walensky, says that states should actually consider, Dr. Atlas, more lockdowns.
We are looking at these data. We're reaching out to individual states, trying to encourage them. We are having weekly governor's calls to encourage them to look at their case data, to look at what's happening with the variants, and to do as much outreach as we can to try and to slow down the relaxation.
You knew this was coming because cases are going up in some states. I don't know how much of that is just loosening regulations or maybe some border issue as well. But they clearly want certain states to lock down again or stay the course of more restrictions. Your reaction to that?
I think people should be very frightened by that kind of recommendation. Right now, we have over 70% roughly of the entire population of 65 and older seniors in this country having had vaccinations. The purpose of this is to stop people from dying, not to stop people from getting a PCR positive test result. I don't know how often it has to be said, but these people that are in charge making these policies, I think people have to understand something very important, which is what Redfield said way back when I was there, which is the CDC does not make rules. They make suggestions. They make guidelines. I hope our governors have enough common sense to listen and see what's happening, to see that people are being protected. There's only 2 states in the country where there's less than 60% of elderly that have had the vaccine. So, I mean, we're really making headway on protecting the vulnerable. That's the whole point. It doesn't matter if you have a mild infection. It matters if you're super sick or going to die. That's what the vaccine protects against. And we know who's at risk. At some point, common sense has to take hold.
Yeah, well, I think people have moved on, even if some of the, quote, experts have not. Dr. Atlas, thank you.